Good morning and welcome to AM Prime here on WESN, the content capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining me this morning for another edition of the program. Now, as we get into the thick of things, I'm pleased to welcome to the program Mr. Ian Clark. He's a member of concerned Teleco TSTT pensioners. Good morning, Mr. Clark.
Morning, sir. Thank you for having us.
And also joining Mr. Clark and I is Mr. Anthony Zephyrin. He's the Secretary of the Committee of Concerned Teleco TSTT Pensioners. Good morning, Mr. Zephyrin.
Good morning to you, sir, and thank you for allowing us to be here.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining me on AM Prime this morning. Folks, what we're discussing this morning is the vulnerability of former Teleco retirees. Unfortunately, it seems as though the executive management has forgotten the plight of the retirees, and the committee has now decided to enact legal matters. So, let me start the question by asking you, Mr. Zephyrin. It seems as though that this has been taking place for years, with TSTT not transitioning from a position of intransigence and indifference. Could you just give us a background as per this issue stemming from Teleco and TSTT retirees?
Sure. For me to do that, I would have to refer to two short paragraphs of the actuarial valuations of both the TSTT valuation of 2021, and in the initial stage, the TSTT evaluation of 2009 and the Teleco evaluation of 2021. It would be short, so let me read it. It would be one in terms of the executive summary of 2009, and it says, quote, "The plan is in surplus relative to the funding target. On the basis of the assumptions adopted, the past service surplus is $267.5 million, and this was as at March 31st, 2009. Now, of significance would have been the summary of that experience. Let me indicate what it says. Pensions in payment were increased by 3% with effect from the 1st of April 2006 and 2007. And TSTT has recently agreed to grant further 3% increases with effect from both the 1st of April 2008 and 2009. That was the TSTT experience, where the plan had a surplus of $267 odd million. I read now from the valuation of 2021, Teleco. The main conclusion are as follows. The plan is in surplus relative to the funding target. On the basis of the assumptions adopted, the past service surplus is $908 million as at the 31st of March 2021. Let me repeat that. The past service surplus is $908 million as at the 31st of March 2021. In its conclusion, nothing in respect to any payments to pensioners based on that surplus. I find this to be... Sorry, sir. Go ahead.
No, because I was now going to bring Mr. Clark into the conversation,
Sure.
who is a member of the concerned Teleco TSTT retirees. Mr. Clark, given this information that Mr. Zephyrin just shared with us, what would you describe the socio-economic conditions of some of the former retirees? In fact, if you can share with us an idea of the pensions that they are receiving.
Okay, well, Mr. Shah, is it? Mr. Shah?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well, in addition to what my colleague have said, the socio-economic conditions of our group of pensioners, many of them are in very dire straits. We consider them amongst the most vulnerable pensioners in our community at this point in time. A huge percentage of them will be in receipt of monthly pensions of under $1,200 per month. Some of them are a little better off, maybe $5,000 per month, $6,000 per month. But what we are focusing on, what our committee is focusing on, Mr. Shah, is the question of the most vulnerable of these pensioners. Those pensioners who joined the company in the 1960s and 1970s, who suffered the disrespect of the general public. I'm sure you may all be old enough to remember the Teleco Cooks days when we suffered the ridicule of the public. And these same pensioners who contributed to the transformation of the company from in the mid-1980s, 1990s. And we feel that these are persons who have contributed to the growth and development of the company, and they should not be allowed to suffer in the way that they are suffering at this point in time. As you would be aware, there are serious inflationary trends in the economy across the board, whether you talk about housing, whether you talk about transportation, whether you talk about healthcare, and these most vulnerable pensioners are all suffering from these situations at this point in time.
Mrs. Everine, if you've indicated that there's close to a $1 billion surplus in the Teleco pension plan, and this conversation with TSTT's executive management has been going on for years, is it that now the committee feels as though there's a complete ignorance or disrespect to members of the committee? Has TSTT even given any indication as to why they failed to act upon what I understand was an agreement that has taken place years ago?
Well, the agreement took place with the communication workers and union involvement. It appears, and it is subjective to my view, that the company wants to have an agreement which would allow, after 2021, any surpluses existing in the plan to not have a positive impact in terms of the people, the pensioners who would have made contributions to the plan. We have said that that can't happen. The company, and it is important to note that over the years, and this is from since 2002 up to the present time, the plan has been in surplus. The company has since then reduced its contribution, which in some cases was 11% as against the credit union, the trade unions 5%, has reduced and therefore has been gaining profits in respect to their contributions to the plan. But they are now saying to us as pensioners, we are willing to give you some money, but let it be clear that after this, we ain't giving you none at all. And we are in total disagreement that we have been major contributions in respect to the plan. And any surpluses coming out from that plan should be to the benefit of pensioners who are suffering. Only this week, and let me just say, only this week, we have lost 5 more pensioners who were part of this struggle since in 2014 to get the company or to influence the company to make some payment to those people. So we think it is totally unfair and immoral by the company on its part.
Mr. Clark, is there, and it's rather unfortunate that, up until this week, you've lost 5 more members of this particular group. Mr. Clark, how many members currently make up the group as compared to when it started? Has there been any measure of relief at all?
Has there been any measurable?
Has there been any measure of relief at all?
Oh, no, sir, none whatsoever. And this is why we are very aggrieved over the current situation. Let me just tell you also, Mr. Shah, that at the present time, apart from what my colleague mentioned about the surplus in the amount of 300 million, the audited assets of the Teleco plan is in excess of $2,000 million at this point in time. That's the audited assets of the plan. Right? So we are in a situation where, despite the very healthy, solvent position of the plan, the TSTT executive management have refused to adjust the pensions of the retirees for the past 14 years. And we are saying that that is totally unacceptable. And as my colleague pointed out of the surplus of the plan, the company, they are currently benefiting. Because on the basis of the actuarial, the last three actuarial reports, the actuaries recommended, the actuaries Baker Woodrow and D'Souza, very reputable company, have recommended that the company could reduce their contribution to the plan. So they have reduced their contribution from, let's say, between 10 and 15% to 5%. And while they have been enjoying those reductions for the past 10 years, they have absolutely refused to adjust the pension of those of our membership, and in particular, Mr. Shah, the most vulnerable, like I mentioned earlier.
Mr. Clark, what is the size of the current membership of this particular committee, this particular group of retirees?
Well, on the basis of the last valuation reports, there is a total pensioners headcount of around, let's say, 1,500 pensioners. Mm-hmm. Those are persons who would have worked in the telco situation. They would have transitioned to the TSTT situation, and they retired, they resigned, and are in receipt now of pensions. Mm-hmm. About 1,500 or so.
And you've...
And just let me make one more point.
Sure.
Before Mr. Zephyrin comes back in. The actuaries, Baker Woodrow and D'Souza, as I indicated earlier on the basis of study which was given to them to undertake by TSTT, they did the arithmetic, and they came up with the fact that the adjustment of pensions, 3% over the past 10 years, a minimum pension of $3,000 for each pensioner, as well as a 1.5 refund of pension deductions, which was erroneously deducted from the employee's salary over a period of about 10 years. When the actuaries did the arithmetic, the total amount of that benefit amounted to about $300 million. So, Mr. Shah, given the situation where you have a surplus of close to or in excess of $900 million, the actuaries have advised you that if you pay or implement those increases, it will cost $300 million. What is the problem with the company? What is the problem with the company paying or instituting those agreements? Now, we have some very, very serious concerns, which we will not discuss this morning. We'll probably have to come back and talk about these things, which has to do with the financial management of the company. Because we are aware that there is a significant debt running right now in TSTT. And they were trying to raise money on both the local and international market to source funds in order to repay those debts. So we are keeping an eye on the financial management of the company. But like I said, we will not discuss that here this morning. We are focusing on the plight of the pensioners and the improvements that should be made to those pensions immediately. That is our position.
Well, Mr. Clark, thank you for clarifying the recommended, according to the independent audited report, the recommended monthly pension payment. Let me come back to Mr. Zephyrin now. Has there been a failure by Teleco TSTT to adhere to government's pension policy? Is that one of the bigger concerns that has been raised? Because from what I understand, you gentlemen have now enacted litigation through the offices of Dr. Claude H. Denbo with regards to TSTT's failure to act.
But let me just indicate, I am not too sure what the government's policy on pensions are. as it specifically relates to TSTT. What I would tell you is that there has been precedence from since 2002 in the context of the surpluses that existed in the plan. There was at no point in time between 2002 and 2009 any problem, and I don't think they had to get any permission to do that. There was no problem in the context of paying the minimum pension or increasing the minimum pension. At that time, it was $500. At this point in time, it's about $1,294. There was no difficulty in terms of doing it. We think, though, it is a very deliberate attempt by the company to ensure that that money is paid. That money is not paid to the pensioners because they have an ulterior motive. And like I said, their ulterior motive is to ensure that whatever takes place in the context of pensions from now on, that they are seeking some level of agreement with the Communication Workers Union, that once that agreement is enacted, the company is not willing to ensure that once the plan make any surpluses, to do what we considered should be done in the context of precedence. And that is our major concern.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Shah, just let me interject here just briefly. Mm-hmm. I just want to make the point, because you talk about the question of government policy. Mm-hmm. What I can say is that pensions were basically established under the Insurance Act. I can't recall the exact year when that act was proclaimed, but from our information, the total assets of the pension sector in Trinidad and Tobago up to 7 years ago, this is based on the research that we did ending July 31st, 2015, is that the total pensions value to the country was in excess of 49 billion TT dollars. And so that is significant. Right? Now, TSTT must be made to understand that they are not a law unto themselves where the question of pension administration in Trinidad and Tobago is concerned. Mm-hmm. Right? There are laws and regulations in place that governs the whole question of pension administration, and we are going to insist that TSTT follow those laws and regulations to the point. Mm-hmm. And this is why we have asked Dr. Denbo to come in and assist us, because everything we are doing is based on the rule of law. Right? The Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago has a very descriptive documentation with respect to the governance of pension plans in Trinidad and Tobago. Mm-hmm. And we have been taking a careful look at that, and we feel that the company has to be told that they are doing the incorrect things and they must adjust their attitude towards the pensioners who have worked many, many years. Many of them, maybe, Mr. Shah, you are too young to remember the days when you could not even get a dial tone, 10 o'clock in the morning in Trinidad and Tobago. And these workers contributed in the 70s and the 80s, transformed the company into a profitable organization, built our reputation in Trinidad and Tobago and in the region. And now we are saddled with an executive management that has thrown all of that history out of the books. Mm-hmm. They are attempting to write that history out of the books, and we are proud of our legacy that we came through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, into the 90s, when TSTT was formed, and another group of executives took over the company, and we do not know what is going on in TSTT right now, except that massive debt that I explained to you a few minutes ago. But we'll return to that financial issue because it is very important for us as pensioners.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Zephyrin, surely there has been some explanation on TSTT's part. Prior to the letter, the letter from the offices of Dr. Claude H. Denbo being delivered to Ms. Lisa Igal, the Chief Executive Officer of TSTT, on April 25th. Prior to that, precisely what was TSTT's position? I know earlier you said, listen, we're going to give you some money, but that's just about it. Has there been any further negotiations, any further conversations, or is it that the situation seems so hopeless, so helpless, There has been no other option now but to pursue litigation.
No other option. None. We have attempted to work with the CW, and we appreciate what they have been doing because they owe us no representation, but we are grateful to them in terms of their attempts to have this issue settled expeditiously. But there is now a dead silence, and this has been happening since around 2020, in terms of any further initiatives relative to having this matter settled. So no, my view, our view is that the company is not doing anything at all to give recognition by the increases that we have asked for to suffering pensioners. And I am saying they are suffering. I talk to them on a daily basis. Medical expenses, they have to face the hospitals. Why is this happening in the context of a plan that has a surplus of over $900 million? Why is this happening when the company feel that it is their right to do whatever they want to do with the money and not give precedence in terms of ensuring that their pensioners, the people of this company, get something in their hands? Of a major concern is the absence of the management committee on both plans. There are none at this point in time, and therefore Mr. Clark's concern has been ours. Who therefore, outside of the administrators, the trustees, who therefore says yay or nay to what is happening in the context of the plan?
Has there been, since the letter was delivered on April 25th, has there been any response? It's been about 3 weeks. Has there been any response since that letter was delivered?
As far as I know, no. None.
So the next steps now that the pre-action protocol letter has been ignored, I'm assuming is that to the full extent, the committee will now pursue litigation and take whatever course is necessary.
We intend to do that as only one part of our action. The other part is that we are prepared to call out all our pensioners for a day of protest and prayer, because we feel that our God has to now step in. It is beyond ridiculous. And the company's moral obligation is not being seen. They have no contact with pensioners and are not aware of what they are going through.
Well,
and therefore, whilst we're doing that, we feel that this other aspect has to be a very important aspect in terms of ensuring that we expose the TSTT's immoral attitude towards people who have served, towards former employees who have served this company in good stead for as much as 40 years and going home with a pension of less than $1,300 a month.
well,
And advising them, you want to get more money? Go and put in an application so that you could get it from the government in respect to what the government has at this point in time. That is ridiculous.
Mr. Clark, Mr. Zephyrin, unfortunately, we are out of time for this morning's conversation, but as suggested by Mr. Clark, there needs to be further discussions, especially as it relates to the concerns raised over the management of TSTT, the financial management of TSTT, that is. But, Mr. Clark, Mr. Zephyrin, I am so sorry, it is rather unfortunate that this is the nature of our discussion this morning, when you gentlemen should be actually enjoying your retirement after your lifelong service to the company. But at this point, we'll wait for further responses, and surely we can be updated over the course of this matter, which I can only hope ends soon. But at this point in time, gentlemen, I wish you all the best. Take care and keep well.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Thank you, Mr. Zephyrin. That was members of concerned Teleco TSCT pensioners joining us on AM Prime this morning. They're now pursuing litigation, and a letter was delivered to Ms. Lisa Agard on the 25th of April. At this time, there has been no response, at least as far as Mr. Zephyrin and Mr. Clark are aware. But there are a lot more concerns just beyond the failure to pay agreed pensions, as per an independent audited report. Some pensioners receiving as little as less than $1,300 TT a month. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime. When we return, we'll get into some lighter discussions this morning. Stay tuned to the program.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WASN,
the content capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to AM Prime, and thank you for staying with us this morning. Well, as you are aware of, AM Prime and WESN, the content capital, is pleased to partner with North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival 2023. Now, through that partnership, we're able to welcome some of the performers that will be gracing the stage in Blanchisseuse on the 27th of May. In fact, this morning, Sun, Sea, and Seraphim. Yes, we're talking to Chris and Seraphim. Joseph, he's with us in studio actually, and we have a bit of a surprise for you this morning, just later on. But Mr. Joseph, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for welcoming me.
Well, I must first ask, Seraphim, that nickname is rather intriguing. Yeah. What is the meaning behind it? How did you even acquire such a name?
Okay, so the Seraphim is actually a biblical figure. It's shows up primarily in the book of Revelation as a fiery figure that gives protection, so an angelic figure. And I wanted, when I decided to get fully involved in the music industry, to have some sort of reminder for myself, you know, to keep my spiritual moorings. So I chose that name.
But that fiery character that you've described, is that also transcended into your music?
I like to hope so. I would not say that I'm generally, I guess, you know, in the way you would say that Bunchy Garland is a fiery figure. I'm a bit more reserved, but musically I think I do bring a certain energy that I hope translates to audiences.
So where did you start, Mr. Seraphim, in terms of what was your initial preferred music? I know that right now there's a fusion of calypso, obviously folklore, jazz, R&B. But from what I understand, you're the son of a legend, and you yourself are a legend in the making, right? So this is Penguin Jr. actually.
Yeah,
Your father was the mighty Penguin.
Yes, indeed. So my beginnings definitely are calypso and folk. I grew up in the Laventy area. My father, as you said, Penguin, so calypso is always around. My uncle is also passed, Roland Gordon, who is a legend in the folk business, you know,
Yes.
around Malik Folk Performing Company, Barataria, all those. So I've always been around those things. So that is really the genesis of my coming into entertainment. It's just being around them and being around their peers and just really getting a true appreciation for what Trinidadianness could mean in the entertainment space.
What Trinidadianness?
Yeah.
In your eyes as an artist, I mean, you grew up, you know, with a family of musicians.
Yeah.
I say. So, two questions. One, would you say that music comes naturally to you, or is it more inspirational in terms of family ties? And two, Trinidadianness. What is that in your eyes?
Okay, so in the first instance, with respect to whether it comes naturally, I don't know if it comes naturally. It has just always been around, so I've had the opportunity to dive into it. I suppose I do have a natural inclination, but I think that you still need to feed it in order for it to develop in any meaningful way. Trinidadianness, I think, is something that we as a nation are yet to fully understand, which I think honestly is one of it's probably our major issue as a nation.
That is a very interesting take.
We often hear people talking about a lack of unity and how unity would make this place so much better, and I agree. But it's difficult to have unity when we don't have a central belief that we all hold, that this is what it is to be a Trinidadian and a Tobagonian. This is what we are. This is who we are. So that in different spaces, it means different things. Which in and of itself is not bad, but I think all those different spaces still need to converge on a thing. It's like, this is who we are.
Would you say that, I mean, I'm often of the opinion that unity exists when there is certain events, carnival, you see great unity. You even see unity through sporting events. You know, Trinidad and Tobago is playing, if West Indies is playing. But would you even say that through music, something that we all share, whether it be through different genres, there is a great appreciation for music. It's part of our history and culture.
For sure.
When you go on stage, would you say that in itself creates unity?
I certainly hope so. Insofar as incidents, or I almost want to say one-off situations where we have something to galvanize around, it's great. And music definitely creates situations where we have something to galvanize around. It's almost like going back to some earlier, simpler time where families would sit around a fire, and this is the time that we are, you know, having that opportunity to share. And I guess North Coast Jazz creates a situation like that where we go into a community and we sit together around this event and share, these are some of our stories, this is who we are, and have that opportunity to really create community and build upon the community that we have.
You know, I've interviewed many musicians, but each perspective is different, and it certainly opens up my eyes a bit more. But it also shows that, and especially what you're saying this morning, we face a lot of difficulties by our own hand. It's easy to resolve. And even you suggesting that a simple thing, such as North Coast Jazz, does a tremendous effort in even bringing us all together. Your company, if I'm not mistaken, is it WI Grill?
It's Caribbean Grill Music. So I use the WI West Indies sometimes, but it's the Caribbean Grill Music.
Would you refer to yourself as a grill? For people who don't understand what a grill is, it's when we had all those calypso tents, when Carnival now was starting and evolving. A grill was the individual who called the people to come together and really initiated the calypso, which was a form of communication, a form of ventilation, I suppose. Would you describe yourself as a griot?
Absolutely. I think, by the time the griot got to Trinidad, the griot became known as a chantwell.
Yes.
But I went even deeper into the roots to the griot. Yes, I think it's the responsibility, especially of every person who wants to be identified as a calypsonian at any point, at any level, to take on that responsibility of being a griot, to tell the stories, to tell the histories, to build community. So absolutely I do. And that's why I put the name in the name of the company, because the work that the company does needs to build upon that understanding of who the griot is and what the griot needs to impart onto the community.
Well, I understand what value you see in North Coast Jazz. I mean, you highlighted that earlier. But what are your hopes? What do you hope to achieve whilst they're performing on stage? And what can we look forward to as an audience?
My hope in every performance is the same. Whether it's North Coast Jazz or a backyard or Queen's Hall, it's just to communicate with people. First and foremost, I want to communicate. I want people to feel something, to feel moved by something, to be moved happy, to be moved sad, to be moved angry. Just something needs to change in you as a result of experiencing my performance.
Well, May 27th is not too far away, so we look forward to that particular performance, Mr. Joseph. Seraphim, as you say, look forward to seeing your performance. But I think we're going to have to pause in this conversation because we've got to take a quick commercial break. When we return, I'll tell you what, let's continue this communication and maybe create some level of unity this morning.
Let's do that.
All right, we'll be right back after this. Christian Seraphim Joseph joins me this morning, and well, hopefully we can brighten up your morning and create a great connection between us here on EM Prime and you, the viewer, right after this.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The artists you'll meet. The sounds will astonish you. Superb voices, new artists, simply refreshing. Celebrate amazing. May 27th, North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival, Festival Grounds Blanchisseuse. Born here, played here. Tickets available at Crosby's, Extra Foods Endeavour, Shogunas Main Road, Sangre Grande, Arima, Grand Bazaar, Mart's Liquor Mart, Diego Martin, Kenny's Sports Outlets, Athletes by the Park, and WESN.
The best birthday gifts are at thebesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
The perfect mix of news, current affairs, talk, debate, mature discussions, comedy and sports. Only at WESN, the content capital.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive, it is not rehabilitative.
We the police officers, we are professional and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, it's for all of us in public.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered.
The conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN, Content Capital.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the Content Capital. Welcome back to AM Prime. Well, the griot is calling us this morning. Let us all gather together and join him as Christian Serafin Joseph just gives us a peek, a taste of his talent and what we can expect on the 27th of May. The griot is here and he's about to play for us.
I'm not going to small fete. Let me extend my apology. Only big fete with big flag going overhead like canopy. Rag in me back pocket with a white vest. tips and tight pants, I never really read none of these. I come from Bass Festival, customs and flour mills, was a fair fire fat and licensing fat and them had a power pill. Everybody go nice and groovy, but you can't live pushing power still. If it's me alone, me with Banshee on a hill. We ain't come here for no stand up. We come to party when we holler. So all the soca people, put your two hands in the air, put your hand in the air, put your hand in the air, put your hand in the air. Show me your hand. Show me your hand. Show me your hand. What's going on, small friend? Let me extend my hand. Want you to hold me down with me, flying overhead like a bee. Rocking the back pocket with a white vest, sneakers and wallaby. Like things and tight pants and there's a railway on the beach. I ain't going to Bass Festival, licensing and purpose. What's the best for your better? What's the better? Everybody go nice and groovy. Pushing, pushing power still. Leave me alone, leave me with power on the hill. My man, I see me play like me. Bunchy darling, you keep power soca still. That's why he sits supreme on the road machine. We ain't come here for no stand up. We come to party when we holler. All soca people, put your two hands in the air, put your hands up in the air, put your two hands in the air, put your hands up in the air. Show me your hand. Show me your hand. Show me your hand. We come for the stand up. I come to party with me holler. All kinds of lovers, put your two hands in the air, put your hand up in the air, put your hand up in the air, put your hand up in the air. Show me your hand. 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 Show me your hand.
Well, I guess, ladies and gentlemen, on the 27th of May, you can see Chris and Seraphin Joseph. He joined us on AM Prime this morning. As you can tell, on the 27th at North Coast, Blanche shares. We ain't coming to no stand-up. We come to sing, dance, and party with our spirits lifted up. Seraphin, my brother, thank you very much for this morning. Look forward to seeing you in just under 2 weeks' time. But for now, we take a break here on AM Prime. When we return, well, we'll continue this morning's edition of The Conversation. Unity in many different forms, but one people brought together. We'll be right back.
Here's your WASN News on the Hour. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Heritage responds to oil leak in Massahud village. Man shot and killed by police. Prime Minister Dr. Rowley holds energy discussions in Washington, D.C. Regionally, workshop designed to improve Caribbean heart health. And internationally, Sri Lanka's crisis-hit economy likely to resume growth in 2024. Now for the details. Heritage Petroleum Company Limited is continuing to monitor air quality following a leak that resulted in 4 nearby households having to be evacuated. There was a report of an oil leak in Masahud village, Faizabad. At approximately 6:40 p.m. on Sunday, Heritage responded to a reported oil leak observed on the Heritage pipeline right-of-way. Upon investigation, Heritage discovered 2 leaks emanating from the 16-inch trunk oil pipeline. The leaks were isolated and repaired within hours. Due to the leak, 20 people from 4 households have been relocated for the duration of the cleanup, and air quality monitoring is ongoing. The Heritage Incident Management team remains on site and continues to manage the response. 1 man is dead following an alleged shootout with police on Monday. Reports say Alistair Arno and another man was walking along Mount Coco Road, Le Plat village at around 12:30 a.m. armed with a gun. The man allegedly pointed the gun in the direction of the officers, and the officers opened fire. Arno was rushed to the St. James Health Facility where he was declared dead. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley met with a Special Presidential Advisor for the Americas, former U.S. Senator Chris Dodd, at the White House on Monday. Minister of Energy and Energy Industries Stuart Young attended the meeting. The talks featured extensive discussions which surrounded progressing Trinidad and Tobago's energy security and the potential effects of same on CARICOM and the wider Americas. Parties agreed to continue working together to secure energy stability for the region. In regional news now, Regional Ministry of Health representatives and health managers will gather in St. Lucia for the first Caribbean Hearts Initiative workshop, signaling a strong commitment of 17 countries and territories to the implementation of WHO PAHO flagship initiative for improving cardiovascular health. The program for the week of May 15th to 19th is designed to present ministry officials and health managers. In international news now, Sri Lanka's crisis-hit economy is expected to resume growing in 2024 after contracting 3% this year, an International Monetary Fund official said on Monday. The IMF's Director for Asia and the Pacific said expected economic growth of 1.5% next year hinges critically on the economic reform program Sri Lanka has agreed to undertake, including challenging reforms in 5 identified areas. It is now essential to continue the reform momentum under strong ownership by the authorities and the Sri Lankan people more broadly. Well, that was your news to the hour on WESN. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for watching.
North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Safe and sound, that's how we'll get you to the biggest North Coast Jazz ever. No hassle and no worries. Park your ride at the Queen's Park Savannah. Hop on board a safe and secure shuttle with your $100 return fee, and that's it. Service begins at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. and returns from festival grounds from 7 p.m. Park and ride, a $100 return fee, first come, first go shuttle service to festival grounds Blashy shares. No hassle and no worries. North Coast Jazz, May 27th. Born here, played here. Tickets available at Crosby's, Extra Foods Endeavour, Shogunas Main Road, Sangre Grande, Arima, Grand Bazaar, Mart's Liquor Mart, Diego Martin, Kenny's Sports Outlets, Athletes by the Park, and WESN.
Thank you for staying with me here on AM Prime. I now welcome to the program Mr. Vikram Ramlal. He's the chairman of the Presbyterian Primary School Board of Education. The issue we're discussing this morning is the acute shortage of teachers within denominational schools. Now, all boards of denominational schools came together, have held discussions and are due to meet with the Minister of Education in the coming days. However, before that meeting begins, it needs to be understood what is taking place to get a better understanding of what might come out of that meeting. So Mr. Ramlal is with us via Zoom this morning. Good morning, Mr. Ramlal. Thank you for joining me on the program.
Good morning, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, Mr. Ramlal, it has been described as an acute shortage of teachers within denominational schools. What is the cause of this shortage?
Okay, I will have to place this in context, but first let me say that the meeting scheduled with the Honorable Minister of Education on Thursday of this week was not scheduled especially to deal with this topic. It is a stakeholders meeting. However, at this meeting, the denominational boards will raise the issue. In context, prior to October of last year, October 2022, there was a system whereby persons desirous of teaching in denominational schools would apply directly to the denominational boards through their religious institutions. So each denominational board had systems in place whereby candidates wanting to teach, let's say, in a Catholic, a Mahasabha, Presbyterian, Anglican school, etc., would apply directly to their religious boards. And after that, the boards of education will interview the applicants, and once the applicants met the criteria set by the religious bodies, they will then be sent to the Ministry of Education for interview. In October of last year, we were called to a meeting by the Teaching Service Commission, all denominational boards, and we were told that the denominational board system is going to be changed by the Commission. Of course, all the boards objected to this, and between October and December, there was a series of exchange of correspondence between the Teaching Service Commission, the Ministry of Education, and the denominational boards. But there was no resolution. Eventually, in January of this year, the Teaching Service Commission advertised online for persons who are desirous of teaching in government-assisted schools, which are in fact denominational schools, should apply. In February, we were informed by the ministry that they had approximately 3,000 applications. They then sent each board a listing of people who applied for their particular board. So in the case of the Presbyterian board, we received approximately 900 names from the Ministry of Education. We cross-referenced those names with names of persons who met our criteria. And of course, we only got about 32 persons who met the criteria of the Presbyterian Church. However, the Presbyterian board, and in fact, all the denominational boards have refused to participate in this system. Two boards, the Mahasabha and the Presbyterian Primary Schools Board of Education, have sent pre-action protocol letters to the Teaching Service Commission, indicating that what they are doing is breaching the provisions of the Concord Act. So despite the press release you have seen from the Teaching Service Commission and the Ministry of Education, come September, there is going to be a shortage of teachers because they are going to interview persons and tell us that there's a list that we can choose from. However, the boards are not prepared to choose persons who are not of their faith or who do not meet the requirements of the Concord Act to preserve the character of the various denominational schools. Since October last year, no teacher has been appointed at the denominational school, hence the shortage that has now reached crisis stage.
The criteria of the Presbyterian board that you refer to, because we can't speak to the criteria of the other denominational school boards, but is it that Could you tell me exactly what this criteria is? Are you able to share that with us this morning?
Sure. To be able to apply and be appointed in a Presbyterian primary school, you must be an active communicant member of the Presbyterian Church for at least 4 years. This requirement has been set so that whoever is appointed will be able to, as the Concordat said, preserve the character of our schools by ensuring that the type of schooling and the type of school that we want to establish and run is maintained by those persons. If you come into our schools and you are not aware, you're not part of our religious institutions, then you will not be able to participate, for instance, in the type of worship we have. You'll not be able to share the type of morals and values we'd like to share with our students. And that is why over the years we have insisted, as of all other boards, that to be part of our system, you must be part of our faith. The second thing is that when we take persons who are not of the faith and later on they reach seniority and they want promotion, again that becomes an issue, because according to the Concordat, we are to appoint or recommend for appointment to administrative positions persons who meet requirements set by the various religious bodies. So we have set our criteria as 4 years and an active communicant member of the Presbyterian Church, meaning that you are worshiping with us, you are participating in activities of the church, and you're fully aware of what Presbyterian is in Trinidad and Tobago.
Let me ask you now, in regards to this new system of which you've referred to in terms of recruiting teachers, it does not align with the Concordat agreement. Do you believe that there is this now greater separation from the Concordat with the education system? Is there a level, I suppose, of disrespect, if we'd like to refer to it that way, in which now the Concordat is not necessarily being adhered to?
Our belief is that the Concordat is under attack. At various levels, attempts are being made to minimize and change the Concordat. The Concordat is an agreement between state and churches that started in 1962 between the then Catholic Church and the government of Trinidad and Tobago. This agreement allows denominational boards the right to recruit and appoint members of their faith as teachers in their schools. And it is not, a lot of people don't understand the Concordat. The government pays the teachers, but we provide the buildings and the lands on which the buildings stand, which are worth millions of dollars, for the government to have the education of these students. We believe that at present, what is being proposed and what has been settled practice for the past 60 plus years is going to be eroded, and the rights of denominational boards, including the Presbyterian board, is going to be diminished under what is being proposed by the Commission.
Now, furthermore, with this shortage of teachers and no new teachers being recruited since last October, come the new school term, which is going to begin in September, what is going to happen there? Is there now, because of that shortage of teachers, the possibility that these denominational schools will not be able to accommodate as many students as previously?
But that has been stated in the comments of the various denominational boards to the media. We have vacancies that arise because teachers retire, resign, die, or are transferred. Those are what we call permanent vacancies. We have vacancies that occur when teachers go on extended sick leave, no pay leave, no pay study leave, special leave, and now we have teachers who are even going on quarantine for extended period because of the COVID. So all these are vacancies that occur in the school. And if we do not have bodies, that is, actual person there to teach the class, then the class would be without a teacher, and the principal will have to make some arrangement. One of the arrangements that the principal can make, they can combine classes. But if a teacher in Standard 1 to Standard 5 has more than 30 students, or in infants more than 25, they can claim, and their union will support them, that we are breaching the pupil-teacher ratio. And they can and will refuse in some cases to teach the additional students.
Now, what is the teacher-student ratio?
From standard 1 to standard 5, it is 1 teacher to 30 students. In the infant department, it is 1 teacher to 25 students.
Okay, and now let me ask you, you suggested that the belief is that the Concordat is under attack. With that being said, do you also believe that this lack of recruitment is a deliberate measure that has been implemented by the Ministry of Education?
But I wouldn't say the Ministry of Education. The present impasse is between the Teaching Service Commission, who under the Constitution is responsible for appointing teachers, and the denominational boards. We have been given certain options. For instance, we can fill our vacancies by selecting teachers from an order of merit list that the government has made available to us through the Ministry of Education. The boards have not accessed that order of merit list because some boards did scan the list and have not found anybody of their feet on that list. So we have not accessed that order of merit list. They have also mentioned the substitute teacher program, and despite this being touted by the Ministry of Education as being working, it is in fact not working. Because if you call any principal and ask them if they try to access this link, out of 10 cases, you might get 1 or 2 telling you that they've been able to access a substitute teacher. Again, when you choose a substitute teacher, which is on a month-to-month basis, there is no permanency in the job. The teacher will come, they will work for the month, they might change their mind after that because some salary is late, and there is no continuity. And again, when you are choosing from that list, very often you either do not get through or you do not find somebody of your feet.
You've also said that the Presbyterian Board as well as the Mahasabha are pursuing litigation in this matter. At what stage are we at with respect to legal action?
In the case of the Mahasabha, I know they issued a pre-action protocol letter to which they received a response from the Teaching Service Commission. So I would believe, from what we have been told, that their lawyers are now looking at their options in terms of taking the matter to court. In the case of the Presbyterian Board, we issued a pre-action protocol letter. We have since been asked to the Teaching Service Commission for 2 extensions. One extension was supposed to end on the 12th of May. On the 11th, we received correspondence from them asking for a further extension until the 17th of May. So we will make our decision when we received our response to the pre-action protocol letter.
Now, as it relates to...
Can I just explain?
Sure.
One of the reasons why we are looking at the litigation side is we believe that what the Teaching Service Commission has proposed and is instituting is breaching the provisions of the Concordat and the regulations and what has been established as settled practice, a system that has been in effect for 62 years. They are looking to change it without the minimal consultation with the partners who have signed that agreement, the Concordat.
How would you describe the communication between these school boards, or at least your school board and the Ministry of Education, if you're suggesting that there's minimal consultation on with regards to the Concordat? Generally speaking, though, what is the communication like between the Presbyterian School Board and the Ministry of Education?
I want to say first that the present situation is between the Teaching Service Commission mainly and the Denominational boards. Our communication with the Ministry of Education has been quite good. Under the present minister, each term she has a series of stakeholders meeting where the various stakeholders, including the denominational boards, are given the opportunity to voice their opinion on the policies and programs of the Ministry of Education. During the pandemic, there were frequent consultations, and even after the pandemic, the minister has kept herself and the minister on such meeting on Thursday of this week. But communicating with the minister herself and having these meetings has been very helpful to all our stakeholders, including our boards, in that we have had the opportunity to comment on various aspects of the ministry. In dealing with the ministry itself, the Presbyterian Board has a very good relationship. We do not have any problems with education. Our relationship has always been like that and continues to be like that. We do not always agree on policies, but the communication is there with the Ministry of Education.
It's sometimes hard to remember that the Service Commission and the Ministry of Education are indeed separate, and at times it's very hard to separate them from one another. But on a different question now, Mr. Ramlal, is it that the criteria with regards to the recruitment of teachers, for example, having to be a communion member for 4 years before being able to apply to the Presbyterian School Board, is it that given that society, younger people are not as religious or as spiritual as the elder generations, would you say that that in itself is restrictive and also contributing a contributing factor to this situation?
I don't think so. I think once we are allowed to continue to use the system that we had before, the various denominational boards will be able to recruit teachers that meet their requirements. Within the Presbyterian Church, we have many young persons who are pursuing their BA degrees, who are willing to come into the system as assistant teachers. I believe what is happening is the Ministry of Education has not been able to offer who have applied for government schools. And because of that, they are now trying to find place for, through the Teaching Service Commission, is now trying to find place for these applicants in the denominational schools.
Mm-hmm. Now, in that sense as well, is there a need for review? Because even though the Concordat is an agreement of which we must respect because it is in place, you yourself mentioned it's over 60 years old. Society has evolved since then. Is there a need for revision of the Concordat?
I don't think any of the religious bodies or the religious boards of education will be against having discussions on the provisions of the Concordat. But these discussions cannot just be someone coming to us and say we are going to implement this and proceed to implement it without having a proper dialogue with us. Mm-hmm. The agreement, as I said, is between the government, the state, and the various religious bodies. Mm-hmm. So whatever consultation we are having will have to be held at the highest level between the religious heads and the government and the various denominational boards. The denominational boards of education have been established by the various religious bodies to manage education in their institutions. Mm-hmm. So we are not averse to having any discussions, whether it's on provisions of the Concordat or whether it's on the Education Act, but it must be meaningful dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Ramlal, how would you respond to those who may suggest or who have suggested that the criteria may seem discriminatory? Because even though the Concordat is in place, if I am of a Hindu faith, my chances of being hired by a Presbyterian school are less likely. And mind you, if I'm of a Presbyterian faith, my chances of being hired into a Hindu school is less likely.
Well, I would not say it is discriminatory. It is a system of education that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. And part of that system of education has, where the government has opted to use the religious institutions for the public education. Mm-hmm. If, for instance, the religious bodies were to withdraw their schools and go private, then you will have a system where the public will have to pay for these schools, maybe subsidized by the government. Under the present system, as I said, the religious bodies and the boards of education have made their land and their buildings costing, and if we add all the bodies together, billions of dollars available to the government for education. 100% of places in the primary schools are occupied based on people applying and getting into these schools. In return, the religious bodies under the Concordat have been given the right to appoint the teachers or recommend the teachers for appointment. So I don't think it is discriminatory. It is the property of the religious bodies, and under the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, and in a court judgment with Justice Sebastian and Venter, he agreed that the bodies have the right to the enjoyment of their property.
Well, Mr. Ramlal, I want to thank you very much for joining me on AM Prime this morning. I think it's a good way to start in terms of having a better understanding of what's taking place. But we would hopefully have more information that you're able to share with us following Thursday's meeting with the Commission as well as the Ministry of Education and other denominational boards. But thank you very much, sir, for your time this morning and for sharing this information with us.
Thank you very much. And just to correct, this meeting is with the Minister of Education and the denominational boards, other stakeholders. It is not with the Teaching Service Commission.
Thank you very much, sir, for that clarification. I'm actually just reading the comments by the Minister with her correspondence with the newspapers. But I appreciate that clarification.
Thank you very much for having me.
Have a good day, sir. That was Mr. Vikram Ramlal, the chairman of the Presbyterian Primary Schools Board of Education, joining us this morning. What is being described as an acute shortage of teachers within the school system. Well, come September, we will see what happens. But the meeting that is due to take place on Thursday may or may not shed light on this particular situation. It is between the minister as well as the denominational school boards, as mentioned by Mr. Ramlal, not necessarily the commission, but obviously the issue will be raised. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for AM Prime this morning. Thank you very much for joining me, for starting your day with me. It's always a pleasure and an honor, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you enjoyed our little performance this morning by Mr. Seraphin Joseph. But ladies and gentlemen, I would wish you a great day ahead, maybe a productive one, of course. And my advice to you is always simple. Always be the bigger person. Always be mature, respectful. Don't be irrational. Always be rational. Think with a clear mind and try to remove as much anger as possible from it before acting. Always be mindful of what you say and what you do, because we can all make Trinidad and Tobago a bit sweeter. We just kind of have to try. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been AM Prime on the Content Capsule. I'm Keaton Shaw, bright and early tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. You can join me for more AM Prime. Until then, bye-bye.
WESN. North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Safe and sound, that's how we'll get you to the biggest North Coast Jazz ever. No hassle and no worries. Park your ride at the Queen's Park Savannah, hop on board a safe and secure shuttle with your $100 return fee, and that's it. Service begins at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. and returns from festival grounds from 7 p.m. Park and ride, a $100 return fee, first come, first go shuttle service to festival grounds, Blashy shares. No hassle and no worries. North Coast Jazz, May 27th. Born here, played here. Tickets available at Crosby's, Extra Foods Endeavour, Shogunus Main Road, Sangre Grande, Arima, Grand Bazaar, Mart's Liquor Mart, Diego Martin, Kenny's Sports Outlets, Athletes by the Park, and WESN.
The perfect mix of news, current affairs, talk, debate, mature discussions, comedy and sports. Only at WESN, the content capital.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
Inside and outside of Europe. This is just the fourth summit of the Council of Europe since it was founded after World War II. The 46-member human rights body is entirely separate from the EU, but its values are upheld by the Strasbourg-based European Court of Human Rights, where citizens can take governments to court over human rights violations. Russia's membership was suspended the day after it invaded Ukraine in February last year. Now, Amnesty International has released a new report on death sentences and executions around the world. Last year, the number of executions was at 883. That's the highest number since 2017. Amnesty says most of those executions took place in China, the Middle East, and North Africa, as Liza Kamenov explains.
In 2022, 20 countries were known to have conducted executions. This is a 53% increase in the last 12 months, the highest number of executions in 5 years. Amnesty International's report says that the 883 deaths were mostly around the Middle East and North Africa region.
We always end up with the same number of states that execute, always about 20. There were 20 in 2022, there were 18 in 2001. It's always the same ones that we find, essentially in the MENA region, that is to say the Middle East and North Africa. So with the champions like Iran, Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Indeed, in authoritarian countries, there is a tendency to use the death penalty as a tool of terror on the population.
Executions surged along with the return of trials after the COVID pandemic. And in the Middle Eastern countries, it was due to what the report calls state-sanctioned killing sprees. In Iran, figures rose from 314 in 2021 to 576 in 2022, in the wake of widespread crackdown against anti-government activists. In Saudi Arabia, Amnesty noted executions were the highest recorded in 30 years, with 81 people executed in one day. China is the top executor in the world, though the exact figure is unclear. Amnesty estimates that it lies in the thousands. North Korea and Vietnam also use the death penalty, but official data remains out of reach. But the report also brings a glimmer of hope, as it shows 6 countries have abolished the death penalty fully or partially. These are Papua New Guinea, Kazakhstan and 4 African nations.
For more on this, I'm joined on the set by Anne Denis, the head of the Death Penalty Commission for Amnesty International France. We saw you in that report a moment ago. Thank you for joining us here on the set. Just a moment ago, we heard you talking about how there is this tendency in authoritarian countries to use the death penalty as a tool of terror. Where have you seen that play out the most?
In Iran and Saudi Arabia, in Myanmar. In the case of countries who want to put the population in terror, so death penalty is a good tool, we can say. Okay. In Iran, there were a lot of executions for murder, and we think that murders. They could occur during the manifestations or the demonstrations where people were arrested, and then there were violent manifestations, demonstrations, so people were killed. And it was a way to put the responsibility for these murders to people who were opponents or who were demonstrating against the authorities. You have in Iran and Saudi Arabia, the trials are not they are not just, we can say. So they are no lawyers. The people, they have to make testifying that they were doing that, and it's coming with torture, and there were a lot of executions, for example in Saudi Arabia for terrorism. In fact, the word terrorism is not very easy to define. So you can put a lot of things in terrorism. And one day, Saudi Arabia executed 81 persons in the same day. We can say that it's quite so it's quite not normal for Saudi Arabia, but it is so the third time they do that. And in Saudi Arabia there were also executions for drug-related offenses.
So most of the recorded executions in the report are, as you're saying, in the Middle East and North Africa, but the report does not take into account thousands of people who are believed to have been executed in China. What can you do to confirm that, to try and get more information on that?
So we are asking every year, we are asking the Chinese authorities to give us data, but it's a state secret. Also in Vietnam and also in North Korea. So we estimate thousands because we have other sources, not the authorities, not official sources, but we can find executions also in the media, in the press, and we know that some years ago there were 10,000. Maybe they are a little bit less, so let's say 7,000, but there are always thousands, for sure, thousands of executions in China.
Another country we often associate with the death penalty is the United States. Did things evolve there, either positively or negatively, over the past year?
So the last year, the USA executed 18 people. The previous year it was 11